All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to the X Zone for hour 2 of tonight's show. We're coming to you on the X Zone Broadcast Network from our studios and offices in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. And you're listening to us on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, streaming on around the world and to the great beyond on classic1220.ca. X Zone Nation, my guest this hour is a good friend of the X Zone. Her name is Gwilda Wiyaka. She is a radio TV creator, producer, host, journalist, award-winning author, and singer-songwriter. She also has a shamanic classes that she makes available to the public. And let me see, she is the former founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Art Schools, formerly of Colorado State Certified Occupational School of the Shamanic Arts, for which she authored all the curriculum and texts. Joining me now from Rocky Mountain High, Colorado, is Gwilda Wiyaka. And Gwilda, welcome back to the X Zone. Always great having you with us.
Rob, it's always great to join you.
Alrighty, so let me see. What's new, thrilling, and exciting with you in the world of shamanism?
Well, shamanism is always new, thrilling, and exciting, even though it's ancient. But right now, we're living in pretty exciting times. So, of course, the information coming through shamanically is pretty exciting.
Where does the information come from?
Well, I really believe that it comes from various places depending on what the question is you're asking and what you're looking for. If you're looking for something personal, I think it comes from your field around you that carries all your potential frequency versus just what's expressing here on the physical plane. So a lot of times you are the authority you think. Other times it comes from kind of the collective. Because if you're looking for larger answers for global things, then it's more from the collective, the energies that's moving in the entire planet, and so on.
What we're seeing these days, Gwilda, is people are looking back to what worked in the past to try and solve the problems and get everything back online in these times. And what is the history of the shamans and the shamanic way of doing things?
Well, shamanism, nobody really knows how old it is. Between 50 and 60,000 years is some of the guesses that I've heard lately. And it is at the base of all of our nationalities. And, before the time when we had, Doppler radar telling us the weather and, the internet giving us information, all the stuff that we have now, people had to have some way of finding out what was going on in the world around them to figure out where their safe passage was, where the game was, or to heal people that were ill. And all of this really fell on the shaman. And so the shamanic practice itself is very, very wide. It goes every place from healing to divination and beyond.
Is there a difference between a shaman, let's say, and a medicine man and a witch doctor?
It all depends on the tribe. Everybody, has their hierarchy a little different. Witch doctor is not necessarily, it's more of a Western term. It's not necessarily used in the indigenous people.
Okay.
But not very commonly, just recently maybe, but not historically. The shaman and the medicine man in some tribes are the same thing, but in most tribes, the medicine man is the one kind of oversees the physical and emotional and well-being of the tribe. He's very learned in herbs and healing and this sort of thing. And the shaman is the one that's involved in being the bridge between spirit and the tribe. So he's the one that'll seek a power animal for a newborn baby or help do the naming ceremony, or he's the one that would go into trance and figure out where the game is or where they should set up their summer camp, that sort of thing. So traditionally, that's the split you see in some of them. Others, that's one and the same.
Now, in most, let's say, North American First Nations, do they still use the shaman within the tribe for this valuable information?
I haven't been in direct contact with the tribes for a long time, but the last time I was, absolutely they do. And then they try to pass down the teachings from the shaman to his offspring or to someone he chooses in the tribe that shows the gift. And it's been passed down that way for eons.
It seems that in the First Nations and the indigenous people, that they revere their elders and that they actually take care of them as they get older and they listen to them. Totally different from the regular elders that you see in society today.
Yes, that's absolutely true. There's the elders were and are, well, not so much anymore. I guess the kids, modern times kind of pollute everybody. But the elders were always revered, and the knowledge and substance that elders gather throughout their long, long lifetime, and a lot of the indigenous people lived a long time, it was very much valued by the tribe, and they would seek advice and give offerings for advice from the elders. And now they just throw us in nursing homes,
That's if you're lucky to find one that has any vacancies.
Yeah, there's that. There's that. Yeah.
So why did you get involved with shaman? What brought you to that fork in your road?
Well, it happened pretty young, actually. I was in my 20s and going to college, and I've always been kind of sensitive, and I could feel the emotions of people around me. But as I got older and was in college dorm where there's all sorts of input, if you will, I just was getting overwhelmed. And I met a shaman, elder, and he was Lakota, and his wife was Navajo. But I met them, and he trained me for, close to 6 years before he crossed, and then I went on to look for other things. But it was out of my own need to start out with. But as I got deeper and deeper into the practice, I recognized this is what the world needs right now, more than ever, really. And so I started studying all sorts of other forms.
How can shamanism help us today? If we're going to talk about the courses that you have available, and how can these courses help people in their day-to-day life?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is divination, because it's a skill that anybody can learn in different forms, but it's a shamanic skill. And it used to be that we could pretty much guess what was going to happen tomorrow based on what happened yesterday, because we were in slower moving times and things weren't changing that fast. However, right now, things are changing so quickly, it's next to impossible to have any clue what's going to pop up next. And I think everybody out there can, identify this in themselves. It's like, holy moly, you think tomorrow's going to be this, but then somebody throws a curveball just like every morning. You never know what's going to be happening, whether you're going to be at a pandemic or a stock market crash, or you just don't know. And so learning to the skill of divination can really help give safe passage. And there's two forms of it. Well, there's more than two, but there's two that I like to work with. One is using what I call omenology, or what's referred to as omenology, and that's looking for signs in the real world based on your intent and what your question is, then reading the signs that show up in the real world to find answers. The other one is to go into a shamanic journey trance, which I also teach, and ask questions and get answers there. And then the journey trance goes on into all sorts of other skills as well.
How do you go into a journey trance?
Well, there's as many ways as there is traditions, okay? But that's what the Tibetan bells, the drumming, the didgeridoo, all these repetitive motions and sounds were designed by the indigenous people to enter into an altered state of consciousness known as the journey trance. And it's very much like an interactive dream. But if you want to talk about scientifically, what happens is you go from beta, the day-to-day state of thinking, into alpha and even into theta by consciously going through this particular ritual. And like I said, a lot of it involves maybe drumming. I personally I've recorded drumming that I sell CDs of drumming for people to journey to, but I use a recording of a drumming when I'm going into trance, when I'm working with my clients.
If you use a drumming to go into a trance, what do you use to come out of the trance?
Same thing. I'll be listening to the drumming the entire time, but within the ritual, it's like they say journey. Well, it literally is a journey in that you see yourself going to different places in your imagination, if you will, like an interactive dream. But then when the drum beat will change, we call it a callback beat. When that happens, you're usually alert enough to notice, and then you'll just track back in your imagination the same way you went in. And so that's how you get back out. And it's important that you do so, because otherwise you can be kind of spacey.
So when you're in these dream states, or taking a dream, what did you call it?
Journey trance.
Journey trance. You don't lose consciousness.
You don't. It's almost more like lucid dreaming. You can get so deep that you don't retain, just like in a dream. You know how you have a dream, you wake up, you know everything about it, you go brush your teeth, and you have no clue what you dreamed about, right? Unless you jotted it down somewhere. And just as you got out of bed. So sometimes you don't retain, and for that reason, I'll usually, if I'm journeying for a client, I'll have them take a few little notes, but I also record my private sessions so that they have a recording of what I said and they can go over it themselves later. But for the most part, people retain, they have, like I say, I have a foot in each reality.
So when you take this voyage, where do you go?
Well, there's various ways of viewing it. Basically, what you do is you go into there's a metaphor that's created in your imagination that is the journey. But within that journey, there's all sorts of metaphors that need to be interpreted to get the information you're after, or to get the healing that you're going for. But where you're going is into this altered state of consciousness that actually has connection with what I would say would be the quantum level. So you're getting information from the energetic aspects of life rather than the physical ones.
So there is science behind shamanism.
Actually, there is, yes. Like I said, I've had my brainwaves tested like crazy because I used to work with doctors a lot, and they got real curious. And so they're the ones that, wire me up and see what happens when I go into journey trance, and I could reproduce it every time, that shift in brainwave patterns.
All right, stand by. You and I have to take our first break for the second half of the X Zone tonight. My guest is Gwilda Wiyaka, and you're listening to the X Zone on the X Zone Broadcast Network, coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario. And you're listening to us on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, streaming at classic1220.ca. My name is Rob McConnell. I'm here Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight, so don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Shamanism is the topic today. We're going to learn how you can take courses in shamanism and what you can actually learn as a shaman, and the many stages that you can go through. And with us is Gwilda Wiyaka. She is a shaman. She is a teacher. She is a radio TV creator, producer, host, journalist, award-winning author, singer, songwriter, and much more. Her website is findyourpathhome.com. Okay, so somebody comes to you and says, I want to learn shamanism. I want to take your course. What do they learn as a beginner in your course?
Okay, so the courses I'm offering right now are video classes, and the first one they would learn or take would be the medicine wheel. Now, that is a concept that teaches some really basic, important skills about how to ground, how to move with the earth, with the way nature works, and all of that sort of stuff. And that's really so important if we never do anything else but learn to be here now. That helps us deal with what's here now versus getting blindsided by it. And so that course is the first one. The second one, right away, we jump into how to journey. And that's entering the journey trance that we've been talking about. After that, you learn how to work with power animals and helping spirits. And after that, you learn how to work with the fairy folk.
All right, what are power animals?
Those are really, really important. And there, again, you have to realize this is metaphor, okay? A lot of people take it literally, and you think I've got a wolf sitting by my side. Okay, but the power animals were and are used to represent a particular divination of power. So say, for instance, if a little guy, he's, say a little Native American boy, he's getting bullied by all his colleagues, his playmates and whatnot. And so he goes to the medicine man. He says, everybody's bullying me. And the medicine man says, well, I'm going to bring you Skunk as your power animal, because Skunk can just walk around, be sweet and innocent, but if somebody bugs him, he lifts his tail and they give him wide berth. So the little boy goes back into the situation with his friends, and they start to tease him. But he has this, he envisions Skunk coming to him, and he puts out this energy or this attitude, and the kids go, I don't think I'm going to bother him today. I don't know why, but I just not going to go there. And it actually does work that way. And so what the power animal can do, or the concept of the power animal, is help you fill in places in your energetic field that are vulnerable, and we make those vulnerable places come from damage that we've sustained throughout our lifetime.
Okay, so what other kind of power animals are there, and what would they represent?
Oh, there's every animal on the planet can be a power animal, and some that may or may not have ever been here. You can have a dragon, okay, as a power animal, or a unicorn. But mostly what you do is you look at the animal and watch their behavior and what they eat and where they live and how they act, and that's their power, okay? So if I was looking for a way to see into the dark, say, for instance, look at the dark side of things that are going on, I might call in an owl, because owl, of course, hunt and see very well in the dark. And they're also notoriously wise, if you will. So you see they carry the energies I might be needing for that particular practice.
You've got somebody asked a question here, and I'm going to ask it to you.
Okay.
Let me see if I can read their writing. You say that many of our new esoteric practices are rooted in shamanism. What do you mean by that?
Okay. That shamanism is very, very widespread. It's basically an organized set of rituals to help the practitioner manage matter at the quantum level. Okay, a mouthful. But, that's been broken out into various different places. Like, a shaman is responsible, or a pipe carrier particularly, is responsible for the dead. When they die, they hold their spirit, metaphorically speaking, for a full year while the family mourns, and then they cross over and the name is never mentioned again. That's a Lakota practice, one of the tribes. And so they that's a Lakota practice. But now we have mediums, okay, that have a gift, and they're able to work with the dead, help dead people cross, if you will. So the mediums of today are also related to the shamanic practice of helping the dead to cross, of carrying the spirit of the dead, of doing exorcisms and depossessions and that sort of thing.
Why do the dead need help to cross? Isn't this a part of a natural cycle?
That's kind of up for debate, Rob. I kind of align with you that it's a natural thing to do, but oftentimes, depending on the way the death went or the belief system of what was going on, people will inadvertently, or at least part of them, will kind of hang around here because things are unfinished. Or, the movie Sixth Sense, it was good representation of it. The guy didn't know he was dead, right? Okay, because it was such a sudden accident, and they'll kind of hang around all confused. And when that's the case, somebody that can see them, like a medium, a well-trained medium and gifted medium, or a shaman, can greet with the energy of the person and say, hey, your time here is done. Would you like to go see your ancestors? And usually they're very happy to go, but they just, they're kind of there in a state of shock. Others, there's vendettas, there's all sorts of things. We could go on forever about what goes on, what keeps people or parts of people here.
But what happens if you're not of the mind to believe that your loved one sticks around for a year before they cross over? And let's take a look at Christianity. How does shamanism relate to the passing of a person who's Christian?
My original teacher, actually, the Lakota elder, was a very devout Christian. Mm-hmm. Okay, he didn't see any conflict between his practice and his religion. And I would tend to agree that the Christian, when they have a ceremony, it's shamanic in nature, organized set of rituals that helps the practitioner manage matter at the quantum level. So when the minister is, delivering the eulogy, if you will, people are grieving and letting go. And what really holds people here, I believe, is our clinging to them. We hold their frequency here. I think the person crosses probably pretty much right away, but it's the people that are left that really are the ones that need the healing.
Because I've spoken to a number of people who have seen those who were ill, and it comes to the time where they leave this reality and go to the next. It's instantaneous, and many other members of their family come to help them do that crossing. So why is it that some do this crossing natural with their loved ones coming, who have been on the other side, who have been waiting for them to join them, to come down and get them, and others, well, they need this method of grieving in order to have the spirit of the deceased released?
Well, it's as different. Every case is as different as the individuals involved, So if the person is fairly well balanced, they've lived a good life, they see their incoming, they're good with that. Okay, like I helped my mother cross. In other words, I was just there for her because she knew her way. But I got to see a lot of my ancestors as she was getting ready to go. And I could hear her talking to them in ordinary reality. So I've witnessed that. And then when she was gone, she was gone. Okay, she was done. But others, people that feel that maybe they really bought into the heaven and hell idea, and they feel that they haven't lived a good enough life, and they're afraid where they're going to go. They're going to stay right here. Thank you very little. And so they don't tend to, because they're in such a state of fear, which is lower frequency. They can't rise to high enough frequency to experience the ancestors as they come. And so those are the ones that need help.
So let me ask you this then. Taking what we've just heard and how we can apply it to present day and past days, right? Mm-hmm. How can one, using shamanism, do any shamanism without engaging a cultural appreciation or
appropriation?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, that's the beauty here is I definitely am not one to promote appropriation of sacred ceremonies from different tribes. Those ceremonies were developed by those tribes for those tribes in their time. But if you look across culture, and put them all together, all the different ceremonies, there are certain principles that you'll find in every one. And so I believe in taking the principles and creating living ceremony for today. And some of these principles come from Catholicism or from Christianity or from Native American or from Aboriginal, but they're the principles. They're not the ceremonies themselves. And the other downside of appropriation is because if you are appropriating it, you're not a learned member, you're not a shaman, you haven't been trained by the tribe, you really don't understand the ceremony well enough to do it clean. And it has power, and if you don't handle it rightly, well, it'll get torqued and not so nice things can happen.
Can happen to who? The person who is making the transition from this frequency to the next, or to those who are initiating the fouled up ceremony?
Both.
Wow.
Yeah, both. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not anything to play with, but on the other hand, if you come at something with good intent and you don't appropriate
Hmm.
ceremony and you really get the education and know what you're doing as far as the principles are concerned, you can do some really wonderful work with this.
So I guess this is nothing to play with.
No, it isn't. And that's kind of my concern, been my concern for 40 years with some of the new age thing. They'll just learn a little bit of this, learn a little bit of that, take a little workshop for a weekend and hang out their shingle as a shaman. And no, it's every bit as complex, if not more, than being a medical doctor. And so you really, if you're looking for a shamanic practitioner, you really need to put a close eye to where they got their training, how much training they have, and what people are saying about their work, because
But
there's no regulation.
that's just it. Now, before we go to the break, I'd just like to say that there seems to be as many new shamanisms that have popped up over the last 10 years with the spreading of the internet as there are psychics, mediums, ghost hunters who really don't know the difference between their foot and their elbows.
Exactly.
Uh,
And that is one of my major concerns.
all right, stand by. We'll be back on the other side of this break in a couple of seconds as we take our half of the time. When we take our half-time break, there, I got it right this time. And we'll get back to Gwilda. If you'd like to find out more about Gwilda's courses, visit her website, yourpathhome.com, or her radio show and TV show that we're going to be talking about later on in this hour, missionevolution.org. I'm Rob McConnell. Gwilda and I will return on the other side of this break as the X Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on the X Zone Broadcast Network, your home, your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streaming around the world on classic1220.ca.
Raven hair and ruby lips, sparks fly from her fingertips, echoed voices in the night. I am not a free man, but neither am I chained. I am not a wise man, but neither am I rearranged. I am not a new man, but neither am I old. I am not a rich man, but I cannot be sold.
And welcome back to the X Zone. I'm Rob McConnell. We're talking about shamanism this hour. And if you'd like to find out more about Gwilda's courses, www.findyourpathhome.com. All right, Gwilda, tell us more about the medicine wheel, because that caught my attention.
Oh, the medicine wheel. Yes, I named the class that because there's a tradition in a lot of northern North American traditions that involve creating what they called a medicine wheel, and they're ancient. You can find really ancient ones here in the States, and probably in Canada as well. And it's a circle of rocks, and then the four cardinal directions are marked out with the stones, and then ceremony is done to align the circle with the powers of the east, south, west, and north, earth, sky, and heart. And through the process of that ceremony, what you're doing is you're aligning yourself with the way life works. You're aligning a whole tribe with the way life works if you do it as a ceremony that you do with more than one person. And that kind of empowers you by the powers of, the way life works, because you're aligning with the way life works. And from there, you can do and see and achieve all sorts of different things that actually happen in balance versus working against the way life works, and we know who loses there. But like on this land where I live now, before I even designed the house, I constructed the medicine wheel, and then I consulted with the land and asked everything about it. Where's the well? what direction should the house face, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And everything turned out really, really well because there was this cooperation that went on.
It almost sounds as if there's certain parts of shamanism that is used in feng shui.
Absolutely. Feng Shui is a shamanic skill, okay?
Okay.
That's just another shamanic practice. And so that would be where you're using these principles to make the energy in a space flow in a good way, and to find all the places where energy's kind of blocked up and rearrange things so that there's a good energy flow. There's two different kinds of Feng Shui, one that aligns with the directions and one that aligns with the structure. Okay, so if I'm using one that aligns with the structure, I go for the corners of the house, regardless of which way the house is facing. If I go with ones that align with the directions, then I get out a magnetic compass and I align my setup with that.
So we were talking about medicine wheels. How about Stonehenge? It's round. It's got stones. Could Stonehenge be a medicine wheel for the Celts, for example, or the Druids?
Well, they're a step above. So like the mounds, the sacred mounds, the medicine wheel, the Stonehenge, the pyramids, they are a medicine wheel in that they work with the energies of the earth and the directions of the earth, but they take it a step beyond that. Well, they also work with the energies of the stars, and they take it a step beyond that, and what they're doing is they're aligning with the heavens and the earth. So they're aligning the heavens and the earth rather than just aligning with the earth, which is what the medicine wheel that I've taught so far does. But if you think about Stonehenge, or you think about the mounds, or you think about the pyramids, they're all designed in such a way that at the time of the equinox, when the sun rises, these shadows fall in very interesting patterns, just depending on which structure it is. Some of them, it's a mound, and the sun shines through the door and hits this column in the middle of the cavern, only on the summer solstice. And that's how people would align themselves with the seasons and stay aligned with the way life works, stellar as well as Earth.
With all the experience you have gathered over the years, looking back at the way that the ancients used the stars and Mother Earth, and like you ask permission and seek the answers from the earth and the sky, and using your medicine wheel. Why isn't that used today with the building of cities, towns, used in farming? If it is that accurate and if it's that precise.
Well, I got a little story to tell you. I used to do a drumming circle for a company that was up in Aspen, I believe is where it was. And what they did is they would have these think tanks, and they'd bring together all these bigwigs from these hospitals. They were just about to build a hospital, and they would get their heads together and design the hospital while they were there, right? And it was a retreat. Well, he'd have me come in and do a drumming circle, and I would do the drumming circle very much in the same way as the medicine wheel. So basically, I'd be building a medicine wheel out of the room. I talk about the principles of the, earth, the sun rises in the east, it's the beginnings, innocence, childhood. Everlight is in the south, that's the midlife. West is where the sun sets. Okay, that's the wise people. And then the elders is north, where the sun's, where there is no sun. We call it the dark side. Well, basically, I just described this in the drumming circle, and never thought much of anything about it. But then the head of that place that I was working for got a hold of me one time. He says, I have to share this with you. He says, you remember that grumpy old guy that acted like he didn't, wasn't really aligning with what you were doing at the drumming circle, and you felt kind of uncomfortable, you felt you hadn't really done him a good job? I said, yeah. He says, well, they went back and designed the entire hospital around those principles. Pediatrics is in the east, geriatrics is in the north. Okay, so that it can be done, and it is being done. And the more it's done, I think the more we will be supported by the planet, and we will support the planet. I don't think that if we really align with the planet, we can do some of the horrific things to her that we've done in the past.
So if this is actually working and being followed, why doesn't the rest of the public know that this is actually working? And here's why: because A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on. And instead of kind of keeping it as a woo-woo form of education.
Well, it has to come out of the woo-woo. I think is what it is. I think, I had a guy on my show, a wonderful doctor, and he had this book he wrote. It was all about Physicians' Untold Stories was the name of it. So basically, they'd all have these extra sensory experiences with their clients and with their patients and with life and death, but they wouldn't tell anybody because they have to be professionals. They have to be above that sort of thing. They don't buy into the woo-woo, or they'll lose credibility. And I think that it's just kind of kept in the back burner because people are ashamed or afraid or whatever to acknowledge it or to use it or to acknowledge that they do use it.
All right, let's get back to your courses here, and I'm sorry for taking you off track there.
No problem.
So if somebody comes to your course and they take your course, it's all online, and more information is available on findyourpathhome.com. How long does the course take, and what can they accomplish at the end of the course? Do they become shaman?
No. And I do not train shaman. Even when I'm doing my 2-year program, I train shamanic practitioners. So people that practice the shamanic skills, we don't appropriate from any particular culture. And if I certify them, I'm certifying that, like in the trade school, I'm certifying that they have successfully completed the course. So that's the certification. It's not certifying a shaman, okay? So no, and particularly with the online courses, these are designed for personal growth and, to help the individual. It's not designed to go out there and be a shaman and try to do healings or anything else, although you can move there from here. But this is kind of the introductory place. So once they can take the courses one at a time, and they can take as long as they want to take them. They get an unlimited time that they can watch the video, and, and limited number of watches, and then there's a test that comes with it. They don't have to take it if they don't want a certificate of completion, but they can take the test if they do. And once they've completed that, then they get a certificate, and once they've gone through all 4, they get a certificate for that. And then that goes towards, if I have a in-person certification program, when I have one of those coming up, well, then they kind of get priority because they're already kind of started down the road, and they have a leg up in the practice.
What have been some of the comments you've heard from people who have taken your courses?
This one I love, but I don't dare say it on the radio. So, this poop really works.
Well, thank you for remembering this is a family show. This poop really works. That's right. I turned my mother-in-law into a frog. Yeah. No. So what can they do? For example, they take the course, the beginner's course. What does this give them knowledge into? I know you said the basics, but what would that entail?
So if they take all 4 of the 4 basic courses that I have online, they start out with the medicine wheel. We've really gone into what that does.
Yes.
Okay. And that also helps them learn how to build a personal altar within their home as well as one outside if they want to do it outside. Then you go right into journey. Now, journeying, and we talked a little bit about that, but it's just like there's no more powerful skill I can teach because it gives you access to esoteric information to help you make your choices with more input of what's coming down the road. Okay? It doesn't make your choices for you, but if you learn how to go into a journey for divination and you learn how to ask the questions in such a way that, they're answerable from, you bridge the gap between spirit and the mundane. In other words, you don't ask spirit, should I do this? What's, spirit doesn't care. Okay. You have to ask, what does it look like if I do this? And then you can get information about what does it look like if I buy this house? What does it look like if I buy that house? Heck, they might show the roof falling in on you. Okay.
Yeah.
So, that's stuff like that. But seriously, you get really very detailed. And once you learn how to interpret and then journal, of course, and then watch, it will show up in your life. So they can do that. You can also go on a personal healing journey to heal something minor within yourself. You can go and find power animals to help you with different things. And we talked about that, what power animals can do for you. That's the journey, the journey class. But you can ask all sorts of questions, get healings, bring balance to your home, all sorts of things by being able to journey.
All right, we've got to take our final break for this hour and for tonight's show, so please stand by. Exonation, we're talking about shamanism, how to take a shamanism course from Gwilda. Her website is findyourpathhome.com, and we'll both be back on the other side as we continue with some interesting questions. And I came up with a couple of questions during the last segment, and I'll get into those with Gwilda when we come back. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on the X Zone Broadcast Network, your Home Talk Radio 1220, and your Home Talk Radio Classic 1220.ca.
But neither am I chained. I am not a wise man, but neither am I rearranged. I am not a new man, but neither am I old.
I knew a man, Bojangles, and he danced for you in worn out shoes, silver hair and ragged shirt and baggy pants, the old soft shoe. He jumped so high, and then he lightly touched down. I met him in a cell in New Orleans. I was down and out.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. I'm Rob McConnell. You're listening to us on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streaming around the world on classic1220.ca. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone@classic1220.ca. We'll get it right here to my favorite computer and my favorite desk in our favorite studio. So there you go. It's a win-win-win situation. Gwilda Wiyaka is our special guest. We're talking about shamanism and shamanic courses. And if you'd like to find out more, visit findyourpathhome.com. And for more information on Gwilda's radio and TV show, visit missionevolution.org. Now, before we go on anywhere, we were talking earlier about these shamanic travels,
Yes,
journeys.
shamanic journey.
Yeah, okay. Where you can find answers to questions, right?
Yes, among many other things.
Okay, if the future is not fixed, and you at any moment can decide whether you want to turn right or left at a cross street, and in order for the answer to be effective to you, it would have to affect everyone else. How does that happen? Are you time traveling?
Well, you are time traveling in a way, because as we know, time is a bit illusionary, right? But what's going on is I like to view it like life, or the currents of life are like an ocean wave,
Okay.
right? And where we are in the horoscope or whatever kind of depends on where we're plunked down on that wave. But how we surf it is up to us. If we decide to go one way or another, or swerve here or swerve there, we'll either ride the wave high or be tumbled under the thing. And that's what shamanism can do, is give you an idea of what that wave is doing, so you can find your sweet spot on it. Now, what that looks like is totally, it's a marriage between the currents of life and our free will, our choices. And shamanism can help give you some clue as to where those two meet, and what choices or what rough waters you might have ahead.
Oh, all right. I can follow that if you are the only person that is affected by this journey. But any journey and any trip also depends on those also traveling on the highway with you, right?
Yes.
Okay. So how can I look at my journey and, with the best of intentions, try to understand where I should go if I don't know, and if the journey doesn't know because of free will, what another, and I'm using this metaphoric, driver in the other lane is going to do?
Right. Well, the shamanic journey can show you things to watch out for, in a way. Like, I've gone on journeys where I have a metaphor for a crash or a tumble or an end down one path. And I said, okay, so what's it look like if I go down this path, which would be a different path? And then I get it'd be metaphors. But it can warn you if there's an impending collision up ahead.
Okay.
And you can avoid doing it. Or not.
Okay, but if time is, like you said, fluid, and the future is not certain, with so many variables, how can that information be valid if we don't know what the rest of time and those involved in their own travel, their own journey, and the answers and questions that they're seeking answers to? I just find it amazing.
Well, I kind of view it like, if I understand your question right, I kind of view it like, we're sitting here, I'm looking out my window right now, and there's a bird feeder out there, and I don't know what the other birds are doing outside of the ones on my bird feeder, right? But if I were to go up in a hot air balloon and look down, I could see what a whole bunch of birds were doing. So it's like the journey kind of gives you an overview of what's going on around you.
Like it gives you the topographical map.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
All
and
right.
that includes the energies moving and the incidences and that.
Now, does the energy and what's going on in the world, let's say, as you and I well know that this world is in a bit of a struggle right now, does that affect our journeys without us knowing it?
You mean our shamanic journeys?
Yes.
Or our path? Yeah. It all plays in there. If those things apply to a question that you've asked, they will play into the metaphor of the answer. So, you'll get a metaphor, but you need to interpret it. Sometimes they'll give you literal information. I've had that happen a lot. But very often, just like in a dream, the information comes through metaphorically. And that's one of the skills that you have to learn, is how to accurately interpret it. But yes, all the currents that are moving that apply to the question at hand will show up in one way or another if it is important, applicable, if you will.
Is it possible for two people to take the same shamanic journey?
Yes, we have actually different journeys that we do, like a journey boat, if you will, where a whole bunch of people will work together in a journey and with a particular outcome in mind. If they want to, heal a community, say, for instance, or if they want to find out information that's much more widespread, because each of us only has a piece of the puzzle, but the more of us you put together, the larger portion of the puzzle that we have.
What would you say to anybody who's really contemplating taking your course right now, how this will affect them on a personal level?
Well, if you really learn the skill and engage in it, it's life-changing. It's absolutely life-changing, because you suddenly find the power of being connected with life, with the earth, with the stars, with everything that is. And that connection leads you to the unified field. And that way you're hooked up to the much larger scope of things in such a way that you're supported by life. You just have a ebb and a flow to the way you move. You know where to be, when to be there, and how to be there, just intuitively, rather than having to puzzle over it all the time. So if you really, really take the practice seriously, it can absolutely change your life.
Why wouldn't people who are taking the course take it seriously?
Well, it depends on where a person is in their life. A lot of people are raising a whole bunch of kids,
Right.
and keeping a job, and they want to take a course, but they don't have the time to really, really immerse themselves in it. Other people, they have the time and the willingness to really immerse themselves. And so you get out of a thing what you put into it.
So if they're taking all 4 of the beginner modules, how long would that take a person who is serious about taking it? How long would it take them to complete?
I think they could probably do it in 4 months. They just spend a month on each one. But then there's, assignments and journey assignments and things to do that help you continue the practice. But, they could learn the skills by taking one course a month if they had the time to really commit to it.
Have you ever had someone who you've brought in as a student and who's done one of the courses and taken a journey and has come back to you and described the journey that has totally floored you?
Oh, so many times, yes. Yes, so many times. It's It's just awe-inspiring to me sometimes. It's like there's one journey that's that usually only people that are doing advanced work take, and that's the dismemberment journey. And that's when you go in and all of a sudden all your power animals and helping spirits take you and just literally rip you apart.
Wow.
And that, not literally, but metaphorically
Sure.
rip you apart. But in the journey, that's what your dream is. You're being ripped apart and thrown to the winds. But what it is dismantling your old structure that's no longer going to serve the life you've intended for yourself. And so that's called a dismemberment journey. Well, one time I was teaching a beginning journey class, and this one moment when we all came back from the journey, and I have everybody, tell their story, what the journey was like, because it gives examples for other people how to interpret it. This one gal was sitting over there, and she was just absolutely pasty pale. And when I came to her, she says, I think I did it wrong. And I said, why? And she said, they tore me apart. They ripped me up. They threw me away. And I went, oh. But, I mean, she didn't know what a dismemberment journey was. She had no clue. And so when I talked to her about, well, what have you been intending for your life? What's been going on? She'd been wanting to make an absolute radical change in her world and her life. And there you go. Whatever you're intending will show up in your journeys. It's pretty fun. Well, that might have been not have been fun for her, but yeah, it's pretty fun.
Like that guy said, hey, this poop really works.
Exactly.
Can somebody take a dream that they have once they've taken your course and use the course material and what they've learned to interpret their own dreams?
Oh, that's one of my favorite assignments that I give in the journey class, is to journey on a dream. And so what you do is you take a dream that you've had that seems important to you, you jot it down, you've got it in your journal, and then you go into a journey trance and ask for an interpretation of this dream. Mm-hmm. And so what you're going to get is another metaphor, right?
Right.
But then you come back and you can kind of triangulate the information, and the interpretation is just profound what you get when you do it that way.
So tell us about these courses and how our listeners can sign up.
Okay. Well, they're all available on findyourpathhome.com. And in fact, you can get them right off the front page there. You can just purchase them. There's a PayPal link. And when you do that, then we will email you a link to the course itself, it's about an hour of teaching, and I teach it myself, and it's a video of that. And then we'll also give you a link to the test for the test of completion, for the certificate of completion, and also workbooks like prayers or whatever. So you'll have, each course has different workbook things that will also be made available to you, and you have all the time that you want to use to complete it, or you can go through it as fast as you need to, as long as you can pass that test, if you want the certificate of completion, and that's how it works.
Do people have the ability to contact you or one of your other teachers, and if they have any questions?
Yes, absolutely. There's email that they can get a hold of us right away. Somebody always monitoring it during the day, and we answer questions there. And we also have on the website, there's a link where you can get shamanic sessions, individual shamanic sessions. And I do recommend that a person does that while they're taking the courses, because this stuff brings up things, because it challenges a lot of our former beliefs on the way life works, and starts bringing up issues and this sort of thing. And so sometimes a soul retrieval or shamanic healing session can really be helpful in the process.
Fascinating. Well, as time goes by so fast when you're with us, thank you so much for joining us. And Exonation, don't forget to visit Gwilda's radio TV show website, missionevolution.org. And for more information about the shamanic courses, visit findyourpathhome.com. Gwilda, thanks very much for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Exonation, I'll be back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X-Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard, Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight Eastern, right here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, streaming classic1220.ca. So until tomorrow night, my friends, always remember to keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.
Jump so high, and then it lightly touched down.